It's 1988, a 400% rise in crime, causing an authoritarian takeover of the United States. The city of Manhattan is a prison. No one gets out. Migrants and criminals run the city.
Take me out with you, Snake. I can think of lots of reasons why.
It's the distant, completely fictional future of 1997.
What the?
Boom! Today, you're given the future of tomorrow, yesterday. One man, Lieutenant, Special Forces, Black Blight, Siberia, Cleveland, Fort Knox.
The president was on board.
President of what?
You need him alive.
I don't give a fuck about your war.
Set to spend the rest of his life in the prison of the country he swore to protect. The president has been kidnapped. The country is brought to its knees. He's the only man who can get in and get out. The one man who can get the mission done. Do you like action? Do you like proto-cyberpunk?
You come back in, he dies.
Do you like stacked women, hand-drawn CGI, and stakes of life and death in Armageddon? Well, I have the movie for you. From the mind of John Carpenter, director of They Live, The Thing, Halloween, and Big Trouble in Little China, comes pre-punk cyberpunk.
Yeah, the
The world's greatest leader is a hostage in the most dangerous place on Earth. Now only the deadliest man alive can save him.
You're not in the air in 30 seconds, he dies.
It's Escape from New York, 1981.
What's up, fellas? Oh my god. Hey, it's the Ohrian channel. What's up? How you doing? I'm talking about Escape from New York for many reasons. One, you're like, what is that book in front of me? If you haven't seen it yet, it is the newest and best-selling cyberpunk novel of 2025. Jake Long in Softbone. Hard-boiled dystopia. It is cyberpunk. It is a heist. It is the human condition. It is taken from the headlines. It has got the satire of RoboCop, the action of Ocean's 11, and the quality of Colleen Hoover on the page. I'll put a link. It's in the description. I'll put it in the chat too. I'm telling you, look, the biggest compliment I've gotten from it so far is, dude, I managed to get through that in an afternoon, which I used to get offended by because I'm like, dude, I worked for like 6 months on that. You guys get through it in like a couple hours? But then I'm like, no, that's good. That means it goes down nice and smooth and easy. Because it's not a small book. It's 60,000 words. It's like a proper, like, pulpy novel sized. But, again, typography, the layout, the wording, the pacing, characters, it's all designed in a way to make it very easy and digestible. And good. It's the role model of this generation. God damn, I love that. Anyways, so because I'm already doing storytelling on this channel, and I'm doing storytelling with this, it's like, why do we not look more into cyberpunk? Because I'm a huge fan of cyberpunk. I don't know if you guys know this about me. I've been talking about it a lot. I love cyberpunk. I love the idea of high-tech, low life. Ever since I was a kid and they would have TBS Nightflix would play Blade Runner, and you'd be watching that like, oh my god, in the future, you have flying taxis and trench coats and ramen noodles and 5 different languages and everything sucks, but it looks so cool. And then Ghost in the Shell came out in like 1995 or 97 or whichever year, and you're like, oh my god, thermo-optic armor and cybernetic drones and shit. Like, oh my god. And then Van Damme came out with the movie Cyborg, and you're like, holy shit, the cyberpunk world is cheesy as shit. And then, of course, you keep going on and you realize, dude, there is a lot of cyber. That Shadowrun, if you were one of those D&D nerds growing up and they're like, I like D&D, but can I have some stim junkies and laser pistols? And bam, Shadowrun's got you, fam. Heck, the CD generation. There was Hell, a cyberpunk thriller. Somebody took Washington, D.C., and they put Hell Came to Earth. Demons are running amok, and like, you know what this needs? Cyberpunk. Dennis Hopper, Grace Jones, Stephanie Seymour, Jeffrey Holder. You're like, who are these people? First off, if you don't know who Jeffrey Holder is, he was the in the 80s, I guess he was like the Sidney Poitier. If you ever needed like a very deep voice guy but couldn't afford James Earl Jones. He was the dude, if I'm not mistaken, he was in Predator. He was in Aliens 3. Oh no, he was in Aliens 3, not Predator. Softbone I read in 3 days, but using imagination it reminds me of an 80s action movie like Escape from New York and LA and the Others. Technically, yes. A lot of the inspiration was from that. But yeah, using the imagination. And that's the big part about this. I think this is why you're able to get through it like that, because I'm not a good reader. It's not that I don't want to be, it's just that I can't. And it's like I have a hard time reading other people's stuff. The one thing I notice is it's too much they're doing all the work. And so with this, I let your imagination do work, which gives you an active part in it. Anyways, enough about me and how great this is, though. We're here to talk about Escape from New York. Escape from New York. Why are you calling it proto-cyberpunk? I am calling it proto-cyberpunk because everybody thinks cyberpunk started with Gibson. What year was Gibson? I want to say it was 87. Hold on a second here. Neuromancer. 1984. 1984, Cyberpunk, Neuromancer. The idea of cyberspace, cyberpunk. It really was looking at the problems of tomorrow today. And it was the idea of Japan taking over. That was one of the big themes in that, was like, because Japan was turning into an economic powerhouse. I talked about it in the Black Rain video. And so this whole idea of Japan becoming the new world superpower, overtaking America, and the Japanification of America was kind of like a big theme in the 80s and early 90s before they had their lost decade. So it was the idea of America going downhill, giant corporations, because at the time, like Microsoft is huge. They didn't think it was going to get as big as it is now. And the internet was still, like, there was a DARPA net and there was kind of like a network stuff, but the internet was just an imaginary thing, which is why when everybody talked about it, first off, they call it cyberspace. Who calls it cyberspace now? Nobody. And it's always interesting to go back and see what they thought the future would be in the past, now that we're in the future now. But it's funny. So Neuromancer, everybody talks about Neuromancer. The Matrix inspired from Neuromancer. The genre started with Neuromancer. It is the Bible for cyberpunk. Meanwhile, 3 years earlier, John Carpenter came out with Escape from New York. And do you know why I call it proto-cyberpunk? It was missing the internet. That's the only thing it's missing. The idea of cyberspace. And so it was that Cold War 80s technology driven to the future without additional stuff slapped onto it. And that's what makes it cyberpunk. It has all of the cyberpunk hallmarkings otherwise. You have your high-tech, low-life. Like Manhattan turned into a prison. It's an authoritarian government regime. Everything is all about propaganda. People are bought into that. Giant companies are taking over this, that, and the other thing. Gangs of people upped on stims, cannibals, all that kind of shit. It's all in there. And the reason it works as a genre is because it taps into our knowledge that the better we get at making a life for ourselves, the worse it makes our lives. It's like the Unabomber was almost the original cyberpunk. I kind of want to do an essay on that one of these days, where the Unabomber, with his whole like technological Ludditism or whatever, it was kind of what got us there. But yeah, and so I don't know why Escape from New York did what it did so early. John Carpenter's always been kind of like ahead of the curve when it comes to dystopic stuff, between that and They Live, and he finds a way to make it accessible and entertaining. He really is an inspiration for Softbone, because if you'll notice, there's quite a few moments in there of some pretty good levity. You're like, geez, this is horrific, and he's joking about it. It's like, I think it's the way you kind of got to do it. Yeah, you just kind of have to have a little laugh at it, because if you're taking it too seriously as like a doom and gloom, you're just trying to like freak a person out, they'll just check out. Yeah, the movie was a documentary, but the world isn't nearly as cool. Another thing too at this time was, so this is like 1979 to 1981 New York. I don't think people understand how bad New York was at this time. It was a war zone. And I don't mean like the way they talk about Chicago now. I mean, it was a literal war zone. They had something like 2,700 murders a year. 2,700 murders a year in New York. I don't think any city today is even close to that. I don't think Iraq, like Baghdad, I don't think Baghdad had that many murders. In fact, let me just look that up here. Let me see. How many deaths in Baghdad? Oh, a year. Oh, all right. So Baghdad is moderately worse. In 2013, 4,137 civilian deaths, and a peak of over 1,000 deaths in a single month in July that year. So yeah, it's essentially New York City was about just a little bit better than 2013 Baghdad. Put that in perspective. Movies like Death Wish were coming out, which was like a vigilante. It was like Batman, but mild-mannered architect. And so as far as they knew, New York was never going to change. They didn't know there was a Giuliani coming out yet. And so they just assumed they're just going to keep making it worse. And they made it 4 times as bad. And then, like, what would America do? Well, they're probably going to just wall it off and throw prisoners in there and, like, fuck it, we're done. We're done. And that's kind of one of the cool things that sci-fi does in general, is just they take some issue we have now, in which case the high crime in New York. Let's exaggerate it to the point of absurdity. And then just follow through. What kind of story world does that create? And that's what they do. Of course, John Carpenter, he was like the Robert Rodriguez of the baby boomers. Like, he did all of his own soundtracks with that synth. Every one of his movies have that very simple synth soundtrack to it, because he does it all himself. And I didn't know this at the time, but I know it now. He has like a band. He has like a synth band. He's like Jan Hammer, the guy who does the Miami Vice soundtrack. So he's got his own cool band. He just rocks around with that and his keyboard and shit. So yeah, he's like, he can save a bunch of money doing it that way. He's got his actors. Don't get me started on the actors. Everybody thinks of Kurt Russell now as some like hardcore gruff cowboy or some hardcore action star like Big Trouble in Little China or Snake Plissken. And that we've always just known him that way. Yeah, he does some comedies like Bird on a Wire, but he's always the tough, rumbled, all-American hero, the quiet guy, he smokes Marlboros. That was not him in Escape from New York. That was the equivalent of when they hired Twilight Boy to play the Batman. Yeah, he was a Disney kid, exactly. Everybody forgets that. Oh, the Twilight guy, they're going to hire him as Batman? This is going to be pathetic. And then he gets in, they're like, oh, dude, it's actually pretty good. Same thing. Kurt Russell was the Disney kid. And like the real Disney, not like the Disney kids now. You know the ones they have now, like your Christina Aguilera and your Justin Timberlakes and all them, where they got diddled a lot by the help, and then they turned fucking crazy, and now they're on Instagram doing some fucking crazy shit like Oops, I Did It Again chick there, whatever her name is. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on that one too. Yeah, back then the Disney kids, they didn't diddle. So Kurt Russell was there. He was just squeaky clean, American, smiley, and they're like, yeah, let's put him in this badass action situation. Everybody's like, oh, what the hell are you doing? It's gonna be shit. And then they brought him in. They're like, fuck, maybe he should have been Batman. Siege D, $5 1 super chat. I love Escape from New York. I honestly look like a Wasian. Oh, Wasian, a West Asian Snake Plissken. I've got the hair, the boots, the tank top. All I need is an eye patch. I will tell you right now, do not do that. Do not get yourself like a fashionable eye patch. It's like having a cane or a fedora. It's just the look, the time is gone. Let it go. If you lose an eye, though, fill your boots. Fill your boots. What I'm saying right now. That is funny, though. Yeah, Charles Bronson Death Wish. There's a whole genre about it. And it's just a combination of so many things. And that's what the 80s was really good for when it came to films, is synthesis, right? No movie is just one genre. It was always multiple genres. Like I've said it before, Predator was a horror movie meshed up with an action movie, like a war movie. Like Delta Force. Take Delta Force, mix it with Halloween. Alien was a science fiction movie with space truckers as a horror movie. Star Trek 2, a character. It's like, first off, it's a Star Trek movie, but it's a character study, and it's Moby Dick, and it's A Tale of Two Cities. It's a story about a man getting older. But you managed to fit like a sci-fi adventure into that one too, right? Everything has these little syntheses to them. And it's what made for a better genre because they weren't restricted. And that's one thing that's good. Breaking rules is a wonderful way to learn new rules. And it's just funny to think because Escape from New York did it before anybody else did. It's like 81. 81. I can't think of any other movies that came out in the late 70s and early 80s that were kind of like this forward thinking. I really do want to say, and I hope I'm not going to be eating these words, but he kind of paved the road. Like, I guarantee you, I was watching Gibson, and I try to find interviews in that, because, like, I'm doing Cyberpunk now. I've never actually read Gibson. I didn't know Gibson. Like, I knew of it, and I knew why it was so important. I just never ended up getting into it. Being a Cyberpunk fan, I'm like, why have I not? So I tried. I've tried reading it 3 times now. I cannot get through it. It just irritated me. And I'm like, maybe there's something wrong with me. And then finally I found he had recorded like an author's voice audiobook. So I'm like, you know what? I never listen to audiobooks. I'm going to get the Gibson audiobook. And I hear Gibson reading Neuromancer, and now it makes sense. He sounds like, I was saying this on Substack, but when you read Neuromancer, you have to picture like a Columbine shooter is reading it to you. And then it makes sense. Which Nick is like, yeah, fair. If you ever listen to it, it's on YouTube. It's just Neuromancer Gibson. It's got like a picture of like a face with lasers coming out of it. You'll recognize the audiobook and you're like, oh, I get it now. Very jazzy. Kid from Vancouver actually was the one who wrote it, and supposedly he took a lot of the lingo from it by listening to junkies in Vancouver talk. And he was like, how the way the junkies talk, that was the way he was talking about cyberpunk stuff. But you can tell, like, once you start getting into that, it's like, dude, you can tell he was like, Escape from New York was his jam. He loved that when he was growing up as a kid. You can kind of see the influences. It's only up to 85, so it's not like there's Top Gun references, and I think that was 86. And then to watch it today, not knowing anything, just watching it as a movie on its own terms, surprisingly simple. It's a very simple movie. Go in, get the president, get out. It's literally Rogue One. You remember Rogue One? That Star Wars movie nobody gave a shit about that had nothing to do with nothing, but they gave some fan service in there. They kind of it's deceptively like Rogue One, except for the fan service is stuff that we don't even know. Like, everybody knows who Snake Plissken is. Oh my god, you're Snake Plissken? I didn't think you survived Cleveland. From Fort Knox, Snake Plissken? And you're like, what the fuck is all this stuff? We don't know any of these references, but everybody in the story knows them all. And it's like, oh, he does this great thing that storytellers do, John Carpenter, where you're plopped down into a world that exists whether you're in it or not. And I think it's a wonderful thing. And nerds have ruined that whole idea because they like to explain everything to me. Explain what happened. You would need a side movie of Fort Knox. You'd need a side movie of Cleveland. It's like, no. Just hint at Cleveland. Let me know how serious Cleveland was. Somebody fucked over somebody in Cleveland. That much I know because Snake's still fucking raw about it. When he tried to shoot the brain in the face. I remember you from Cleveland. You left me there to die. I'm like, oh, Cleveland sounds like a big fucking deal. Plus the fact it's just like a Midwestern American city. You're like, dude, what the hell happened in Cleveland? I got to see something here. 1 second. All right. Yeah. And so Andor, is that really Mish, by the way? It does not sound like how Mish talks. Yeah, and that was just, there's a mission. You got to go in there and do things. Escape from New York doesn't do a lot of the things I would consider great storytelling, but it doesn't matter. It breaks the rules. And it breaks the rules in a way that work. So, for example, Snake has no character arc. He does not grow or change as a person throughout the story. He's a solid character, which has been done. The Punisher 87 does that. I Come in Peace does that. When you have a main character who stays still as far as character arc goes, that's usually done as an anchor point for things to grow and change around him. But they don't have that either. Because who are the characters in this? There's Van Cleef, but he mostly is like he's the catalyst character. He doesn't really change at all. He's been an asshole when he started. He's an asshole when he ends. He was a different special forces. He's kind of like the Snake Plissken that wasn't arrested for trying to rob Fort Knox. He was the Snake Plissken that got the good government job, and now he's running the prison in New York. You got the president. The president doesn't learn a goddamn thing. You would think he gets kidnapped, he gets brought to New York, he gets tortured. Maybe he comes out of it a better man. In fact, they even go out of their way to make it a plot point to show you how he does not grow and change as a person. He's still the same cynical bastard he always was. Because it's right at the end when Snake's like, he's like, anything you want. And he goes, just a moment of your time. Like, a lot of people died getting you down here. I just want to know what you think about that. And he was basically asking him, like, do you even give a shit about all these people that gave their life to save your life? And he gives some platitudes like, oh, well, the American people think. He's like, all right, fair enough. He's like, well, I was going to give you these nuclear secrets. And he fucking thrashes them, which absolutely funny, by the way. The MacGuffin for this movie is not so much the president, is there's a tape on him. And the tape has the recipe for like cold fusion, free energy for the world. And it's just funny that on a cassette tape, the most important recipe in the history of mankind, cold fusion, unlimited energy for the world, peace and prosperity, on a cassette tape. Some guy talking into a microphone. Mix 2 parts hydronium with 3 parts adamantium. Shake well, put in a nuclear power plant, and free energy. End recording. I don't know why I find that so funny. Because it's just like, we could think of some. There's probably some fancy new way of recording information. Maybe a computer. I don't think John Carpenter knew about computers in 81 either. Like, they didn't even use computer graphics, which is, I find that so cool from a stylized, like a stylish element. Because you're like, what are you talking about? When they were doing the Twin Tower and all that stuff, there's a bunch of wireframes. Computer graphics at the time were super expensive. Like Star Trek Wrath of Khan, I think, was 82. And just their Genesis computer display, or Star Wars in 77, that one there, super expensive shots. And he's like, yeah, we can't afford any of this. So do you know what they did? They built a model of Manhattan buildings and stuff, and they took that fluorescent tape and they put it on all the edges, and then they just filmed it with like a neon light. So the neon light would reflect off the lines would come into the camera. It would make it look like CG wireframes, but it was just a model with like lights on it. And it's funny because if you look at it knowing that, you can kind of tell like the lines are. Old CG had that CRT TV look to it, where it was kind of like pixelated, had that diffusion to it. There was a certain look to it, and the lines always had a certain thickness to them. But you watch this, the lines are kind of like slightly thick, but they're also like extremely precise in ways they shouldn't be. But it's sort of jank in ways that it shouldn't be either. It's just off. But you don't think anything of it. You think, wow, this is some kind of weird future tech that's both old school vector, but also new school HD DVD quality stuff. Like, man, the future is wild. It's like, yeah, it's just reflective lights. Just reflective lights on a model. Saved a shit ton of money. Try being left-eye dominant and right-handed and shooting a firearm. Ooh, Jesus, I couldn't even imagine. Do you want to see nerds really hyperfixate on fantasy lore? Try Battletech. I've seen it. I think Razor Fist is huge in the Battletech world. Which is weird, because you would have thought Battletech would have like really come up on its own, because they're just taking everything they can right now and making it into movies and stuff. Between Battletech, even some like the spin-off stuff that had nothing to do with it, like Robot Jocks. But for some reason, the Macross and Gundam stuff just overshone it, which is too bad, because American Battletech was pretty cool. En chat a-t-il déjà pris un beffroi pour Internet? Fuck. Je ne comprends pas. Parce que mon français est shit. Désolé. Yeah, it's so many little things like that, and he didn't have the knowledge he had. So yeah, the president doesn't change as a person. Snake doesn't change as a person. Lee Van Cleef's character doesn't change as a person. Well, you're like, what about the other characters? What about Brain and his girlfriend? Which, by the way, side note, 80s baddies just hit different. There was this trend, went from like 1979 to like 1988, of stacked baddies with perms and resting bitch face. And it's a thing. I can't explain it. You just have to start watching it and you realize. So yeah, the girl on this one, oh, it's a French chick. I gotta learn. I never pronounce her name right. Give me a second here. This is an English-speaking cyberspace czar. Excellent. Yeah, that's right. You're only supposed to speak a chopped up version of Japanese and English. What's her name? Adrienne Barbeau plays Maggie, which, by the way, is such a cyberpunk name. This is the Brain. This is Snake Plissken. What's your name? Maggie. Yeah. Yeah, there was her. By the way, there are nudes. If you go online and search, it's one of those things. I'm like, because I always search for a lot of the actresses because I want to find out if they had an episode of Dream On they're on. So I'm always looking for an excuse to bring Brian Benben in. And Brian Benben always had them nude on the show on Dream On, so it's like perfect. You can have the Too Hot for TV thing. It works out well. Surprisingly, a lot of people have been on Dream On. Fucking Sniper himself, Tom Berenger, was on Dream On, so it's like you can find anybody for it. Anyways, what am I saying here? The name. So there was Adrienne Barbeau. There was Sarah Antonio Masterson. God damn it, the chick from Robin Hood. Prince of Thieves. What is her name again? Mary Stuart Masterson? Mary Elizabeth Master Antonio. That's the one. Another one. Perm, brunette, stacked, baddie, resting bitch face. There was her too. There's like 4 or 5 more. I think in the video that's coming out for when I eventually do it for Escape from New York, you'll see it. Belinda Carlisle. Yeah. There was her. Who's the... that TV series. I don't think Stephanie Seymour was one of those, was she? It's iffy. I don't think she did the perm. But anyways, it's a specific look. It's that perm. It's almost like an afro. Oh, Ripley. What's her face? The alien chick. God damn it. Why am I so bad with this stuff? Sigourney Weaver. Another one of those. So there was like a whole genre of this. Yeah, if I'm going to live forever, I'm going to learn how to fly. That's funny. Yeah, I don't know why they did it the way they did it. I don't know why it had to be brunettes. I think it was like Italian and British and Irish girls, but it was just a look. And you knew the look because they were stacked, baddies, perms, brunettes, and resting bitch face. It's the perfect combination. Early 80s stuff. And if you joke about this one, Barbeau, if you ever read, like, go look up Shadowrun. Go look at all the promotional material. Go look at all the box sets. I guarantee you, every single one of them has a caricature of Barbeau on the cover. Any kind of cyberpunk things, if they had to add a chick to it, they don't add the blonde bombshell. They add the fucking brunette with the perm, with the titties hanging out, and it's just so good. Because it's such a specific thing. Like, every decade has its own specific type of baddie that you just don't see in other decades. Like, you have the disco queens in the 70s, the girls with, like, afros in the 70s. You never see that outside of that generation, the Farrah Fawcett types. The 80s, you got this one. In the 90s, you had, like the Rachel from Friends, that kind of look. The girl next door, skirt, long boots. The 2000s, the orange, like the Snooki orange look, where it was like super fake tan, dark hair, dark dresses stuff, the glossy makeup. Every decade has its own very specific baddie, and that was the early 80s baddie. Without the titties, the perms are mad. Well, I mean, that's Yeah, if you put an ugly girl in there, none of this stuff works. But it's their specific baddies, which is just awesome. Skinny midriff look, exactly. Sigourney Weaver, like female Harrison Ford. Keep in mind, too, Sigourney Weaver's like 6'2". She is a beast. Super tall, super thin model. She's kind of like, who's that Greek chick that does Wonder Woman? You know her? Kind of like her. But picture her if she could act. Heck, even the original Wonder Woman. Man, I don't know. I'm worried. I'm losing my mind. Carter. Linda Carter. That's the one. Yeah, Linda Carter. Another girl. Actually, you know what? I think technically she fits under that that thing. I think she even had a perm in the old Wonder Woman's. Do they have? Fuck. You know what? It's close enough. I'm going to count her as part of that 80s perm baddie stacked look. Also, she's like 6'2". And stacked. And resting bitch face. And that. Yeah. Just these tall, statuesque brunettes. I don't know. Anyway, so then you watch this. You don't know anything about anything. So you got that kind of look. You got no character thing. Brain doesn't change. He just kind of like runs through his thing. Ernest Borgnine doesn't change as a character. Nobody changes as a character. So you're like, why do I like this movie? Why do I like this movie when there is zero character change in it at all? The plot is overly simplistic. I picked you up. You're in prison. You have to do this job for me or you're going to die in prison. He goes, well, I'm going to die either way, so I might as well go do it. And then you realize, like, the character is the setting. The whole thing. Like, you're watching it for the ambiance, the setting, the vibe, the whole world. And what they do amazingly well is they don't expose, they reveal. And you're like, what's the difference? Exposition. That's what modern movies do that absolutely sucks. They have to give you a 30-minute monologue. In the world gone wrong, the orcs and the things do this, and they have to explain it all to you, and you're like caught up in all the backstory. The economic system of Manhattan is like, which is funny because they kind of do that in Escape from New York too, but the difference is they have restraint. They tell you the bare minimum you need to know. Like, what's the information you need to know? You need to know that Manhattan is a prison. They walled it off because crime got bad, so they threw a wall around it, and now it's the prison of America. Authoritarian community, that's it. They don't tell you what the fuck happened in Chicago. They don't tell you what happened in Fort Knox. They don't tell you nothing. They kind of tell you who Snake Plissken is, but it's only through other people telling you, oh, I see your file here. You know the classic, the file, you got special. And at the time, this wasn't a cliche. So they kind of pioneered this as well. It says here, your special forces. And then they name off like Siberia and this. And you're like, what the hell? I don't know what any of that stuff means. What does Siberia mean? What is Operation Blackbriar or any shit like that? But you can tell from the way the characters act, oh, that's a big deal. Yeah, I recognize you. I'm Special Forces too. And he's part of Delta Force. He goes, oh yeah, we hated you pussies. And I'm like, oh. So like everybody here is an extreme badass. And nobody exposed why. You just kind of infer it. They get dropped in New York. The one guy in there, like the original punk, I don't know what it was. There's something about 80s cyberpunk punk rockers where it's like the big mohawky type hair, the goofy skeletal makeup, and kind of acting a little theatrical. It's like very Ramones, very that shit. So they had that in there too. They don't develop as characters. They just establish like what's to keep the military from just walking in there and taking him. He's like, yeah, we got him. You come in here, he dies. Get the fuck out. I'm like, all right, fine. So that's what I mean. Like everything has a purpose. Every time you have this stupid questions like, why doesn't the military get him? Why doesn't they just do this? Why don't they do that? They're like, no. Here's a scene. They tried it, didn't work. And they avoid, I think this is the cleverest part about it. Yeah, it's simple. Yeah, the world is doing all the heavy lifting for keeping your interest. But what they do is they just don't make mistakes to take you out of it. There's never a point where somebody does, like, I can't remember what the trope is called. There's this storytelling thing that shitty people do where you have to assume the character's an idiot. Horror movies are bad for it. Like the chick running out of the house with the towels. Like, why didn't you just grab that knife off the shelf and defend yourself? Why not just grab a gun? Why not just call the cops? Why did you decide to run out in the lake wearing no clothes? Like, you have to assume they're an idiot in order for the plot to work. But in this case, they're like, all right, so there's these A few things you're going to do that will only work if somebody's acting like an idiot. So let's get those out of the way. Let's get all the negatives out of the way. All the things you don't like out of the way. So yeah, why doesn't the military get him? Fine, we'll sort that out. Well, why does Snake even want to do this mission? Well, he's going to prison. So you're going to prison either way. At least this way we got you a way out. Well, what's to stop him from betraying them at the end? They put some shit in his neck, a little explosive charge. Like, yeah, you come back with the president or that shit's blowing up in a day. So bam, solves it double duty because now you have like a time pressure. Yeah, the president has to get that tape out before the conference with the communists or whatever is like a flex. But that's not Snake's problem. He doesn't care. I'll get him out when I get him out. Like, no, you're going to die. All right, so now everybody's got a reason to make things happen. And then they get to use that too because it builds tension. Every time he checks his watch, you see the time cutting down, the time cutting down. It lets you know, oh, fuck, he better get moving. He better get moving. Oh, he's trapped. How's he going to get out of this? And yeah, they stop making mistakes. Like right at the beginning. They're just like, yeah, here, tracking device. Go find him, bring him back. Uses the tracking device, goes down. They gave the tracking device to some other guy, some random homeless guy who's like, now I got nothing. No president, no way to track him. I'm just lost. He sits down and he basically gives up. Oh, I'm done. And then some cannibals chase him. So he's like, fuck, I got to get out of here. You're like, are the cannibals really dangerous? He's got a gun and they rip that chick through the floorboards. Then he ends up running to that cabbie. The cabbie, and everybody kind of knows who Snake Plissken is. So they're like, oh, dude, imagine you're sitting around and then all of a sudden you see like Batman at the Starbucks beside you. You're like, holy shit, is that Batman? You walk up, Batman? He goes, yeah, I'm trying to find somebody. He's like, dude, you tell me if you're sitting around at Starbucks, fucking Batman's there with a cappuccino. And he's like, I need help. I'm trying to find this thing. You're like, dude, get in the car, Batman. Let's go. We're going to take our hatchback. We will find the Joker. Fucking rights. I thought that was Steve Buscemi at first. Yeah. Yeah, it's Mystique. It's more than Mystique too. It's kind of like they infer the coolness. They infer the aura. They don't tell you, they don't expose it. They don't have to show you because they know your imagination does a better job. It's like with Cyberpunk or with Softbone. Your imagination will do a better job than the writer or the producer or the actor can ever do. So if at all possible, you give that to the audience. You go very Marshall McLuhan, hot mediums and cold mediums, which if you've never heard about that, medium is the message. Marshall McLuhan, the most famous University of Toronto professor. Jordan Peterson, you're not Marshall McLuhan. I don't know what to tell you. But he was talking about hot mediums and cold mediums. Hot mediums, you sit down and you absorb things. There's no active part for you to take place in it. You shut your brain off and just absorb it. It's like, slop. Cold mediums, on the other hand, require you to have an active participation. Radio is a cold medium because you have to picture things in your head because the radio's speaking it to you. Books can be a cold medium when they don't over-explain things because then you have to fill in the blanks with your memory. This movie does a really good example of that. And movies are a very hot medium. So when you have a cold medium movie, that takes effort. Takes effort. And they have to selectively hide things from you and infer them and give you just enough information to take it, right? Fucking rights, but that's funny. And so yeah, you realize that. Okay, so all the stupid things that you would ask, all the things that would require a character to act like an idiot, they get rid of those. They fix all those with the scenes, and then they move you forward. And then every time you move forward, there is something cooler that happens. Like he's gliding in on top of the World Trade Center, which I find it hilarious, by the way. The dystopic future of 1997, and like the worst thing they could think of was like criminals. Meanwhile, the real New York is like just as much crime, but super gay and no Twin Towers. And it is kind of like an open air prison, but it's more like a communist prison. So like even then, the worst 1997 they could picture pales in comparison to the real 2027. But hey, you can't fault them for not thinking more dystopic enough. But yes, you're like, oh my god, the gliding thing is bad. They're gonna set him up for death. Trying to find the president, no, doesn't work. None of the new modern technology of the fancy police state will work. And that's kind of hinting too. It's like all this government power. It is like the most oppressive thing in the world, and none of it helps. None of it. Snake basically has to rely on like the criminal underworld. It's like got a Die Hard thing that way where Everybody who's important, like the FBI and all that stuff, they're incompetent. The chief of police is an idiot. It's the beat cop and the New York guy on vacation that solve it, the everyman. And the same thing in this one. Ernest Borgnine, just some cab driver. And he's on my Gattaca video. Ernest Borgnine is one of those actors. If you watched like old Disney cartoons as a kid, like Robin Hood and all that, you'll know Ernest Borgnine, but you never really think about him. He was like one of those character actors that's just really good, and they never replaced him with anything even close to as cool as Ernest Borgnine. But yeah, he's just a friendly New York cabbie, and he just so happens to be in prison. Same thing as the Brain and Maggie. They know him from back in Cleveland. And the idea that he's going to help them get out, they're like, fuck, all right, I'll help you for my own way out. But nothing happens stupid. They try to do an escape. They're like, all right, it's fine. We'll get on the train. We'll pick him up and we do it. Snake walks in, sneaks in, takes him on the train, takes him out. Duke catches him. Isaac Hayes. You're like, what the fuck? Yeah, the guy with the soundtrack for Superfly. Which, you're like, what? I'm telling you. Talk to your dad. You do not know how cool Superfly was back in the day. He was like, I can't think of an equivalent right now. What's the cool? It's like the Wakanda Forever meme, but for black people in the 70s. Superfly. Everybody knows. Or Shaft, sorry. Not Shaft. Or Superfly or Shaft? Hold on a second here. Was it Superfly or was it Shaft? Just goes to show you how popular it was. Isaac Hayes. Shaft, not Superfly. My bad. My bad. So he's the Duke and he's cool. So he kidnaps Snake and then they put him through like some torture shit, and that's when he finds that old wrestler, which he's such an old wrestler. I'm Andre the Giant, Piper, and early Hogan, Mr. T wrestling knowledge, and this guy was before my time, and they put him in there. They had Snake have to fight his way out of it to make him more of a badass, and then him doing his escape. So it's like every time they have a plan that should work, things keep breaking, but Snake is just impossible to kill. And that's the one thing they do with him as a character. Like, they don't have him grow, but they show how he'll always survive. He'll get shot, he'll get injured, he'll get stabbed, he'll get beat the fuck up. He'll always figure out a way to survive. It's just cool. Johnny Trejo, welcome to the channel, sir. It's good to see you. There used to be a homeless guy with one eye around here called Snake. He eventually got a job at Papa John's, so I quit getting pizza from there. Fucking guy. God damn it, Marty. Yeah, and then finally they have to do an escape again. It turns out Maggie and the Brain steal the president out. Fucking stab the guy. They shoot a bunch of them. They break the president out while Snake's distracting everybody with that thing. So they all meet up. We need a car to get out of here. Do you have your because he has like a map. There's like mines on the bridge out of town. And he's like, I know where the mines are. I can get us out of there. Fine, get us a car. But the Duke is ready for that. They break that plan too. Eventually, Urgus Borgnine. So it's got that same vibe that Rogue One had, where it's like you're constantly having to figure things out on the fly. Your enemy is smart. They keep breaking every plan you got. You got to get out. So they're good at building tension. They're good at building, and then rug pulling you. They do that like 3 or 4 times throughout the movie. No character development's happening. No plot development's happening. It's just take this guy, put him there. And it's just shit constantly getting in the way. It's like a Survivor series. And then finally at the end, they get the car, but it turns out Buddy's map isn't the greatest. Ernest Borgnine gets killed when the first mine splits their cab in half. The Brain gets killed when he accidentally steps on a mine, telling the guys, you're going the wrong way. You're supposed to go this way. Bam. Maggie. I have it at the end of that preview I showed you guys. You don't see this in movies, like that ride or die bitch attitude. There's something visceral about it. The chick said, like, you're going to kill my man? No, man. That ain't on. And Snake's like, come on, we got to get out of here. She's like, what? Hands her the pistol. She goes, get out of here. All right. Just turns around, squeezes the girls together, starts just fucking firing at the car. Bam, 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 bam. Isaac Hayes runs her over. Pow! And I was like, dude. I forgot back in 81, this was like ultra violence. This was like Clockwork Orange. So yeah, she's like, you killed my boyfriend, you son of a bitch. She's firing rounds into the thing. I think she killed a bunch of people. Didn't kill him though. He runs her over and then they give a small close-up of just her getting run the fuck over. And I was like, damn. Then they have to escape. And the escape is fun because they get the president out of there. But then the Duke is like, he's got Snake's gun and he won't let Snake leave. And Snake's like, dude, I got like 2 minutes. If I don't get out of here, I'm a dead man anyway. But as soon as I make myself pop out, he's going to shoot me. The president ends up saving his life, but he's not so much saving his life, just getting revenge. And I don't know, it's one of those things that go hard in there too. The president with the machine gun, just yelling at the guy, mowing him down. It's like that Simpsons when they had Mel Gibson playing the president and he stabs the senator with the American flag. Good night, Mr. President. And he's using the line that he used, you're the Duke, #1, because they were like torturing him earlier on, made him say the line. So the president ends up saving him, which, again, it serves no purpose. It actually is antithetical to the plot, where the president's supposed to be a cynical bastard, doesn't really care. All these people are just in his way. He doesn't really, you're supposed to sacrifice for me. I'm the president. Why wouldn't you? So that part is the only thing from the story-wise that makes no sense. But I can tell Carpenter's like, no. Like, we have a problem right now. Duke and Snake have to fight and get out of this thing. But Snake doesn't have the time for it. So how do I solve this problem? And he could have had, like, where they duke it out. They kind of scuffle a little bit. But he's like, nah, I'm just going to have the president shoot him. And he was always like a typical Carpenter thing. Like a subversive, like, you weren't expecting that, were you? You're like, fuck, good point. Perfect example, Big Trouble in Little China. When they sneak in and they're going to fight all the evil demons and that stuff. And everybody's like getting ready, pumping themselves up. Yeah. Kurt Russell fires a couple shots of his rifle into the air. It knocks some bricks off the top, knocks him out. He's out for the whole fight. You're like, dude, I wanted to watch Kurt Russell fighting Chinese demons from hell. They're like, no, he's knocked out. Everybody else gets to fight, though. And he wakes up after it's over. Tries to get one shot off, and then the dude whose head explodes punches his gun. I was like, that's pretty funny. But you see what I mean? It's like one of those subversive expectation things where you're expecting a certain cliched set piece. He's like, no, we're not doing that. And I'm sure for him, it was like a monetary thing. It's like, dude, that costs too much. Let's just knock him out, do the thing where we're doing it, and it'll be fine. Gives the president a bit of his aura farming. They get him out of there. They fix him. They clean up his neck. And it's good. So it's like, oh, that's great. So like the movie starts. He had his mission. He finished his mission. Nobody learned a damn thing. And you're like, oh, that's kind of unsatisfying. Yeah, it was great as a popcorn movie, but it doesn't give you longevity. I think what truly makes it stand the test of time is right at the end. You know, like, what are you going to do? I'm going to Disneyland. That was like the old meme back then. Whenever somebody wins something, I'm going to go to Disneyland. Snake didn't do the Disneyland thing. It's just a moment of your time. What do you think of the guys with the deaths? And he's like, gives you some platitudes. He's like, you know what? Fuck this. And he just blows up free energy. He's like, you know what? Fuck the world. A very cynical, jaded. It's like, fuck your free power. You were just going to use it as a prick anyway. And that's kind of true, because he's like, if you think about it, the whole theme of the movie is how modern tech is impoverishing us, right? His plane didn't help. All the guns and weapons, they didn't help. All the tech they used to save the president didn't help. The entire force of the military didn't help. It was just a plucky upstart criminal, and a bunch of plucky upstart criminals managed to solve all these problems. And then at the end, well, fusion power will fix all the problems. He's like, fuck that. It's probably just going to make things worse, and he destroys it and walks off. And I don't know for sure. I've watched it enough. I have a fan theory where Van Cleef kind of knows this is going on, and he just kind of lets it happen. He goes, yeah, I know Snake has the real tape, but he's kind of like, I fucking don't care. I'm over this. He kind of is like Snake, but he's still in the system. He hasn't been beaten out of it. So I could almost see, and they'll never do this, which obviously because everybody's like Van Cleef died, but I'm glad they didn't do this, where it was almost like he has his own Snake Plissken arc where he decides to stop being the chief of police for Manhattan and going to do his own crime, becomes his own Snake Plissken, and then they team up as like a buddy cop. Like, you can see shit like that happening. And when you watch it, you take this all together, and it's like seeing your grandfather's World War II rifle. You know what I mean? Yeah, maybe you got like some fancy, you got one of them Rhino pistols at home, or you got an AR that's just stacked out with great tech and whatever, and you just see your dad's old World War II, and it's like, fuck, that's like, and it shoots really well, it's accurate as shit, it's just really good, but it's missing all the accoutrements that all your modern stuff does. This is the cinematic version of that. It's just good, and it's so simple and so stripped down. it almost feels minimal, like minimalist. Except for back then, he was just the trendsetter. Like, he created this cyberpunk aesthetic, the trend, the genre. And because he had created it, he can only create so much things. People had to build onto that. And then eventually you get stuff where, like, Gibson builds on it, and then, Snow Crash builds on that, and then you eventually get to the point where Softbone builds on all this stuff too. So if this genre didn't exist before this, I would have had to invent so many things in here that didn't exist. A Kowloon walled city. And then you realize, yeah, for good storytelling, it's always built on other things, and the further back you go, the more stripped down and simple you see stuff. And so this is one of those reasons that I really like encouraging people to watch older movies. Not because older movies were better, they were, but a lot of time it's just like, it's almost like a history lesson. Like, if you really want to enjoy Star Wars, you need to go watch Seven Samurai by Kurosawa. That kind of stuff. Yeah, you're going to kill me, Snake? I'm too tired. Keep in mind, too, back then, these very glib, pithy one-liners wasn't really a thing in movies. They kind of pioneered that, too. Like Dirty Harry, which I think was 78, 79, or 80. It was just before. I'm pretty sure Dirty Harry was like a year or two before this, where they kind of had that. But Dirty Harry wasn't as cynical and he wasn't as jaded. He had his pithy lines, but they were more, again, minimal and stripped down. And then Snake Plissken's character kind of one-upped it. And then you can easily draw a line from Snake Plissken's gravelly voice all the way up to like the Christian Bale Batman, if you really want to. It's at the point now that everybody just assumes if you're a quiet badass, you have to have a gravelly voice, and you have to whisper, and you have to say you don't give a fuck. Like, you got to remember, none of this would have happened if that Disney actor hadn't decided, I'll do a sci-fi action movie. Fuck it. Played Piggy in the middle for the entire third act. That's a good way of putting it. So yeah, the video's coming out next week. It's a bit slow on the release. Do give it a watch. If you haven't watched the movie, go watch the movie too. You can watch it before or after, either way. It depends. Do you like watching it on its own without any primer at first, or do you like watching the primer first? That's up to you. So yeah, check it out. Just fucking love it. I'm gonna let you guys go. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Like I said, we're gonna do Escape from New York, and then Escape from LA. I think I'm gonna do next, which it's a totally different movie. It's hard to explain. It's like the closest I can come to is like it's the difference between Starship Troopers the book and Starship Troopers the movie. Is the difference between Escape from New York and Escape from LA. But we'll get there when we get there. So I'll see you guys soon.
It's 1988. A 400% rise in crime, causing an authoritarian takeover of the United States. The city of Manhattan is a prison. No one gets out. Migrants and criminals run the city.
Take me out with you, Snake. I can think of lots of reasons why.
It's the distant, completely fictional future of 1997.
What the?
Today, you're given the future of tomorrow, yesterday. One man, Lieutenant, Special Forces, Black Blight, Siberia, Cleveland, Fort Knox.
The president was on board.
President of what?
You need him alive.
I don't give a fuck about your war.
Set to spend the rest of his life in the prison of the country he swore to protect. The president has been kidnapped. The country is brought to its knees. He's the only man who can get in and get out. The one man who can get the mission done. Do you like action? Do you like proto-cyberpunk?
Come back in, he dies.
Do you like stacked women, hand-drawn CGI, and stakes of life and death in Armageddon? Well, I have the movie for you. From the mind of John Carpenter, director of They Live, The Thing, Halloween, and Big Trouble in Little China, comes pre-punk cyberpunk. The world's greatest leader is a hostage in the most dangerous place on Earth. Now only the deadliest man alive can save him.
You're not in the air in 30 seconds, he dies.
It's Escape from New York, 1981.